All right, so we're getting started in this section 18.22. That's page 311. We've been talking about disability income. Can we please define a disability? Because I feel like that should have been first. I'm not here to judge. It's kind of not true. The reason I did this is because technically I'm judging all of my way through this class, right? I'll be like, this is crap, this is crap. By the way, on the next page, I'm going to actually have you write down under 18.24 where it says cause of disability. I'm going to have you put an arrow to it and that says garbage because it's the worst definition I've ever seen, but it's in the next chapter. So, I don't know where the logic of that is, like crime against logic. But anyway, We're on 18.22, disability defined. Skip all the way through that first line and highlight totally disabled before benefits. Skip a little bit, are payable. Okay? Skip down one line, four lines down, way at the end, two definitions, any occupation or own occupation. So, before we move on, totally disabled. No partial disability. Partial disability is not a thing unless you pay for it. It's like, you walk up, Five Guys. Yeah, I'll take a burger. Didn't come with the fries, right? The fries had to be added on. Well, partial disability is the fries that you add on to a disability income policy. It only covers total disabilities, right? But the most important thing here are these next two, because these are the definitions that are going to be tested. Any occupation, highlight that headline, and then right there on that first line, highlight any occupation, and then jump all the way to the end of that first line, insured, and then next line down, unable to perform any occupation. Now, I think that this is kind of a doo-doo definition. Really what that means is that any occupation is not the one you want. Because let's just say you're a construction worker and you're normally a framer, right? Or you do something masonry, something kind of hardcore where you got to bend around, lift things and stuff like that. And any occupation means that if you're injured, let's say you hurt your shoulder and you can't swing a hammer anymore, if you're injured, they can make you go into the office and answer phones or hold one of those signs. It's like slow, fast, right? What you want is the next one down, 18.222, own occupation. So highlight the headline and then that first line where they put the little quotes, own occupation. Requires the insured to be unable to work at her own occupation. Let's go down to the next line. All the way at the end, they love that word. It's like they're saying their own name, right? Own occupation. Highlight that again. Next line down, dead center, more advantageous. Right after that, more expensive. Underneath that dead center, often disability income policies qualify total disability in two stages using both the own occupation and any occupation definitions. And what that means right here, right after that dead center of that line, initial benefits based on own occupation definition, right? Right here, when it talks about specified period of time, like example, first 2 years, remember this. If they're giving you an estimate, usually, typically, sometimes, customary, that means they can't test you on something that isn't always the same. They can only test you on something static. So we're jumping over that, right? And so let's see, the own occupation definition and next line down, then changes to the any occupation definition. So what's that saying is that, let's just say that contractor, it was a serious accident, like shoulder replacement, major something. Maybe it was something even more, right? Maybe this dude will never be the same. So in that instance, it would be under his own occupation for the first, let's just say 2 years, right? And then after that 2 years, it moves down to the any occupation, which means like, bro, can you at least hold the sign for us? Right? Malingering. If they don't do this, you will never have an incentive to go back to work. So we have the disability defined. Remember, it's a totally disabled before benefits are payable. Two definitions. The first one, any occupation. The insured is required to be able, see that definition there is terrible. The insured is going to be required to do any occupation reasonably, acceptable for them. An own occupation requires the injured to be unable to work at their own occupation. It's more advantageous. And typically, it's going to have two phases. In the first phase, you don't have to do anything but your own. Second phase, you got to do something, and it could be anything. All right, let's move over to the next page. Presumptive disabilities, right? Now we're on page 312, presumptive disabilities. Now, presumptive. You can presume, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you this. If I had no hands, could you presume that I can't grab that hat? All right, I'd be like this. I can grab the hat, but I can't grab the hat with my hands, right? I am presumed disabled, but let's highlight this, all right? 18223, presumptive disability. Presumption of disability. Next line down, specifies conditions that automatically qualify for the full benefit. Presumes the insured is totally disabled. Presumptive disabilities include blindness, deafness, loss of speech. We have those monkeys, right? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They're presumed to be disabled, all right? And loss of two limbs. Loss of one limb, you're only kind of disabled and you are not covered unless you paid for those fries, all right? Let's see here. We're done with presumptive. That's all you really needed to know there. Next one, 18.23, partial disability. All right, well, you see where they have it all in bold all over there for you, right? That second and the third line, highlight partial disability, partial disability. Why? Just because. I just want to make sure you know what we're talking about. All right, now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, dead center. Partial disability is the inability to perform one or more important duties of the job or inability to work on a full-time basis, which results in a decrease in income. Next paragraph down, partial disability, payable only if first totally disabled. Intended to encourage to get back to work, even on a part-time basis. Skip a line down all the way at the end. Benefits payable depends on whether the policy stipulates a flat amount or a residual amount. Okay, so what do we have here? Remember those two phases? You need to be totally disabled before you get to a partial disability. Remember that. All right, now flat amount. In this class, I like everything flat. For those of you who are going on to the life class as well, you're doing the 215, health, life, and variable annuities. Flat always means static, boring, basic. It is never going anywhere. There's never an increase, never a decrease, just flat. All right? Super easy. It's nice when I'm not getting all tricky with you. So a flat amount, highlight that. Next line, directly under the flat amount. Usually 50% of the full disability benefit. But remember what I said. Usually means typically not tested. So in this instance, can an insurer pay a different amount? Could they pay more? Absolutely, right? But it's important that you highlight it because what we're really talking about is the flat amount is usually 50% of the disability benefit. And then under that example, assume own occupation right under, so you saw where that is, right? Second line at the end, assume. And then a third line right under assume, own occupation. Fourth line directly under own occupation, unable to work for 4 months. At the end of that, policy pays full benefit. And then after able to return to work on a part-time. and then skip all the way down, able to work on a part-time basis and continue to receive half her disability benefits for partial disability. So what we're saying there is that in this example, flat amount benefit is usually 50% of the full disability benefit. Why? Because you were already fully disabled, remember? Now we're trying to prevent you from malingering. You have to go back to work. This is designed to incentivize you to go back to work and not lose 100% of your disability, right? Because if you went back to work and they said, well, you come back to work and we give you nothing, then you ain't going back to work. But if you go back to work and they still give you something to help you offset your losses, that sounds like the key and a good way to get you to not malinger. So just to be clear on this, flat amount benefit, please don't forget, if I show you my book right there, I drew a little line right there. I connected this partial disability all the way down to the residual amount because I don't want you to mix that up. That is its own subset. That's why I really I really despise how they set up the book because I like it to be a little bit separate. If you're watching this, you should be checking out, even if you have the book, you should be going to the website where we break it down and keep it very clear for you because we cut out all the fluff. I just want you to see what's important to you, all right? So remember, partial disability under this definition is only a thing if you've been totally disabled first for a certain period of time. That period of time is dependent on your policy, right? So is the amount that it pays for the partial disability. And that's it. In that last sentence, they're able to work on a part-time basis and continue to receive half of her disability benefits. All right. So now next one down, 18232, residual amount benefit. Highlight that first little bold right there, residual amount benefit. And then right after that, based on a portion of income actually lost. Skip down to that last sentence on that page, right? Where it's like, for example, the insured suffer, but I don't want you to highlight all that. Just highlight 40% loss of income, then go over to the next page, top line towards the second half. Residual benefit payable would be 40% of, next line down, benefit for total disability. Why? Because in this example, we were assuming that the insured suffered a 40% loss of income. Therefore, if they have a residual benefit, payable would be the 40% of their total disability. Skip a line down to, all right, at the very end there, 3 lines up from the bottom, no benefits paid if the loss is less than either 20-25%. Just saying, the amount to be insured must be large. We're going to cover that. That's rule of engagement, man. Those are, you know, in order to be insurable, the amount needs to be large. Nobody wants to, why would you insure 10% of your income? That's silly. Silly. And then I don't want to look at an example. Why? Because I'm flashing for you. Remember, this is the fast version. What we were doing is if we outline the book, it makes it super easy for us to discuss it super fast. This section right here, if you're just taking the 240, this section is 6.4 hours. If we can blow through this section and touch and highlight everything in there, we have more than enough time to go ahead and review everything slowly. So if you don't understand right now, I suggest you just don't understand it right now, but you've heard it. We haven't started explaining it yet. We're just identifying the keywords and the definitions. In the next video, we're going to jump over to causes of disability.